in this special Rewind edition, a journey back to the heavenly and hellishly fun world of Good Omens, the adaptation of Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett's classic novel. Back at New York Comic Con 2019, I spoke to the cast and creators to celebrate the series' Season 1 and reflect on its emotional resonance and tease the cosmic possibilities ahead. This is exploring humanity through sci-fi. This continues my mission to get a better understanding of ourselves through sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and comics as our mode of exploration. Good Omens is a moment of celebration. The cast and creators share the magic they've been building. It's a snapshot of creative collaboration, genre storytelling at its finest, and the enduring power of a story about friendship at the end of the world. Jon Hamm is the Archangel Gabriel, and Miranda Richardson plays Madame Tracy, and they joined us first at the round table.
Human, very kind, helpful Madame Tracy, who's making a buck in the only way she knows how, which is by being a part-time, polite word, courtesan and medium.
Clairvoyant.
Yeah, both of which are helping mostly mankind, it seems, in this rather than womankind. And living in very eccentric lodgings and just getting on with life. And then finds that she really does have a talent, because she is chosen as the channel by Aziraphale to try and avert Armageddon. I'll try that again. This is only sparkling water. And so it's huge fun. There's a kind of centerpiece scene for her character, which involves a seance where Aziraphale comes through. And then a journey is set in motion, getting off on a moped with Mike McKean on the back, trying to save the world.
My guy, the Archangel Gabriel, is in... Wow, that was early. Got her.
First spit take of the day.
Got her.
Oh my God.
There's more exploring humanity through sci-fi, so stay tuned.
He's not in the book, but he's in some books. He's in a certain book, but he's not in this book, although he's mentioned in the book. So Neil decided to sort of flesh him out and give him an arc of some sort. And
Archangel.
And so he is God's right-hand man, basically. And as such, he is Aziraphale's boss, and as such, he is tasked with making sure Aziraphale does his job, bring about Armageddon. And the thought was that he's that boss that we've all had in some capacity, who you just hate, because he is so confident and assured and certain that his way is the right way, and yet he's completely wrong and poorly informed and misinformed.
Like every boss.
Like most of us think of our bosses. You have to do what they say, but they're so dumb, and you wish you didn't have to. So there's I get a lot of joy in playing kind of handsome, misinformed idiots sometimes. I've done it on several occasions. As Miranda was saying, it's all to the point of telling this incredibly detailed and layered story that has been rendered with such great care by the team behind Good Omens. And so it was a real pleasure to get to be asked to play in that playground.
Here's Jon Hamm's reaction to the first script.
I couldn't believe they were making it. I read the book back in the 90s when I was a kid, and I thought, the same way I thought about American Gods, I was like, man, this would be such a cool movie that they will never make because it's impossible to do. And now in the world we live, where you can make a 6-hour movie and call it a limited series, you can do that. And how we have grown as storytellers and the tools at our disposal at this point, and the tools for getting it in front of people. It didn't have to be on one of 4 networks. It didn't have to be one of 5 offerings in the theater. The cinema. It can be something else. Like, is it TV now? Do we call Amazon Prime TV, or do we call it? What do we call it? I don't know. Like, it's entertainment. It's content. It's something. And I'm pleased as all hell to be able to get to do it. So when I read the first script, I was like, this is exactly it. And then I immediately wanted to read the second one and the third one and the fourth one. Like, you want to read, see how they did it.
I mean, I've always really dealt with short form, and I love it. And it also attracts great talent. And it seems counterintuitive, because you'd think that people would want to go on longer with something. And there is a case for that. There's a case for everything. It's just it's not my norm, and I've never sustained through 5 years of something. So this just feels like home, really. With the budget and the talents for a movie, but it's stretched out over a lovely, nice, bouncy period of time, and you get to grips with it.
Yeah, I've worked in pretty much every television capacity, from network television to cable television, the basic cable television, the premium cable television, what have you. The difference, when we started Mad Men, everyone was like, "Oh, what's it like working for AMC? Because you're so free to do all this creative stuff." It's like, I don't know. Is it different from HBO? Is it that different from where the networks are now? I don't think so. I think the necessity to appeal to an incredibly wide, swath of the marketplace is certainly lessened at certain places, and I think it's non-existent at Amazon. I think whatever their metrics they use, and fill in the blank, Netflix, Hulu, what have you, I think that only they know them. So it's a hit if they say it's a hit, and that's such a great place to be for us, because we know if we like it, and we know if we want to do it more, and that's awesome. You're not dependent on some nebulous third party that says, like, deems you, that gives you the ability to go on further. I've always been a fan of the British way of doing things, television-wise, because all of their shows, well, with the exception of like EastEnders and what have you, like, come to an end. They only made 12 Fawlty Towers.
Yes.
Blackadder they made 4 seasons of 6 episodes each, I think.
That's right.
And they're great. And then they stop.
Guess what? You want to rewatch them.
And you want to keep watching them.
Incredible.
It's okay.
And then you get to go do something else. Because if you're an actor, like, the idea of doing the same thing over and over again seems particularly weird to do if you're an actor. Like, go get into, like, making thimbles or something. That's if you want to do the same thing over and over again.
Neil Gaiman adapted his book that he co-wrote with Terry Pratchett. He joined us along with director Douglas McKinnon.
I think with Good Omens, very specific. I mean, different books have different problems. With Good Omens, you have the very specific problem of this is absolutely impossible. Exactly. And that's a specific problem that you don't normally have with most books.
For 30 years, people have said it's impossible.
Yeah, I love the fact that Jon Hamm, when I emailed him and said, Good Omens, he was like, hey, yeah, I read it years ago. It's one of my favorite books. Unfilmable, isn't it? Let's see. So a lot of it actually was just that.
And now we've got actors coming in for ADR, and they filmed the unfilmable.
I mean, mostly, what I tried to do was trust the book. The book has a very specific tone of voice. The book doesn't have many jokes in. It just has things that are kind of funny, which was something I didn't know until I listened to the BBC Radio 4 adaptation, and I'm going, it doesn't actually have any jokes. It's just, I hadn't realized we didn't do that. In fact, a lot of the time we'd make the dialogue very serious, and because everybody in it is dealing with serious situations, and I'd leave the jokes to the voice of the book, which then meant that I went, okay, well, I need the book to have a voice, and I'm going to have, it's the voice of God. So then we had to figure out how to cast the voice of God in a way to make that work.
That was really hard. And we needed to give somebody a break. So that's why we've got Frances McDormand. No, I think the formidable thing about Good Omens is just the epic nature of it, and I mean, for me, whether I'm just stupid or not, because I just went, no, we'll just do it. I just entered every day of filming like it was any other day of filming. I've been in big shows before. I know what big set pieces look like, and you go. I mean, the worst day in my history of filming was doing the waterfall scene in Sherlock and The Abominable Bride, and it can't get any worse than that. Nearly killing Benedict Martin and Andrew Scott. So I figure, well, any deal like that in Good Omens is going to be easier, and we just set off and did it. We kind of just, with a show like this, you've just got to be bold, and you've just got to go forwards and say, we are going to realise the book. That's what we're doing, and a bit more, because Neil sort of explored things that he couldn't in the book, and particularly between Aziraphale and Crowley. There's a 30-minute section at the beginning of episode 3, for instance, which is probably the most ambitious part of the whole series, which isn't in the book at all, where we travel in time through Aziraphale and Crowley discovering each other. Really.
We go from Noah's Ark and the Garden of Eden all the way through to ancient Rome and Arthurian Britain and the Globe Theatre and French Revolution and so forth.
And we end up in a church in Nazi London, Second World War, and then in Soho in the 60s. David, whereas Michael had pretty much one wig, David had lots of wigs.
Normally it was Michael's hair.
It was Michael's hair, yeah, so, pretty much.
I mean, the lovely thing, you get such a sense of who they are, following their relationship over time, and realizing how they become friends, and then how that friendship starts to define who they are and what they do, and how much they like each other.
And I think the treasure at the heart of Good Omens is David and Michael's performances. They've given us something extra that we couldn't even, when you hire Michael Sheen and David Tennant, you think, oh, right, we'll be okay. but they've ended up like some sort of crazy combination of Thelma, Louise, Butch and Sundance all together, just as they all jump off cliffs. It's just really kind of like that.
There are things that you can make happen in filmmaking, and then there are things that just happen and you are grateful, and the chemistry of Michael and David is something that we didn't make happen. We didn't know if it was going to happen. They found their voices somewhere in the read-through. We did a 1 day long table read. It was about 10 minutes in. They weren't quite sure, and they hadn't found, and then suddenly it's like, and everybody in the room is like, this is fun. And it just became a thing.
The first 10 minutes were a bit nervous.
And so...
but I think the biggest character doesn't even appear on screen, which is the voice of God. Frances's presence is just remarkable throughout, as you would hope it would be. And she's just there both commentating and constructing story and telling us things, and it's just a lovely sweeping thing. So whereas in the book there was the voice of the writers plus the and so on and so on, whereas having Frances McDormand is a really useful thing.
Well, Gabriel isn't even mentioned. I mean, he's mentioned in the book, but he doesn't come on as a character. Terry Pratchett and I had talked over the years about how we saw heaven and how we saw hell in the Good Omens universe, and one thing that we were certain of was that the angels were every bit as appalling as the demons. They were just a lot better dressed and a lot more convinced of their own rightness.
More exploring humanity through sci-fi in a moment.
Two actors were turned loose, and their chemistry comes through in Messrs. David Tennant and Michael Sheen.
Well, they've known each other since the dawn of time.
Yeah. One's an angel, one's a demon.
They both started as angels. One of them fell.
With style.
Or sauntered vaguely downwards, as he prefers to put it.
Yeah, and they've both been sent by their respective head offices to work in the same field, and over time they have come to an agreement, and then that agreement has turned to a sort of friendship, and that friendship maybe has turned to something even more deep. but that they can't really talk about. I guess. And they've fallen in love with being on Earth and what it is to be human. I think the fact that neither of them are human has allowed them to kind of enjoy what being human means, and they've sort of knocked the edges off each other, and they've become more like each other as well, and now they don't want it to end, and there's this terrible plan to bring it all to an end, and so they have to do what they can to stop it.
And about that read-through.
Read-throughs are always awful because they're like that. They're first day of school. You're meeting lots of people for the first time. Hundreds of people you never meet again as well. Screeds of executive producers, and I'm so and so from the BBC, and I'm so and so from Amazon. And you're going, I mean, this is all a blur because I'm terrified anyway. I'm going to have to read words out loud for the first time. I'm convinced someone's going to tap me on the shoulder and went, "This was great," but Damien Lewis is over there, and he's, so you're dealing with all of that, and you're sort of trying to make out that you're happy to be there and thrilled, and all you want to do is curl into a fetal position under the table. So you're dealing with all that, but then you also get to play for the first time, and you want to give of your best because you want people to think, oh, he deserves to be here. And you want to try and start making those connections, and sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. But I think we started reading the scenes, and we've got a lot of scenes together as we went through the script, and the characters began to bubble and come to life and come into focus in a way that they can never really do when you're sitting in your bedroom and reading the novel and trying to imagine what it might look like when you put that pair of boots on, and if you do that with your hair, and what that will all add up to. And it was, I think it became a very important moment for us establishing what those characters were going to be going forward.
Yeah, I mean, those read-throughs are an odd thing because you get some actors who just sort of mumble their way through it and don't really commit to it because they don't want to, because it's a really vulnerable situation. Like, it's the first time the character sort of starts to make itself heard, because unless you've been at home practicing in front of the mirror, which would just be weird, then it's the first time you kind of let the character start to try and find out who it is. And with this, it's so much about what their relationship is like. So it was our first attempt to start to see what that is. So it was of all the read-throughs I'd ever done for anything, this was the most important one in terms of the process, I suppose, in a way, in that because we wouldn't get much chance afterwards, we'd be filming. Yeah. So it was the first time, and possibly the only time, that we got a first go at going, you're that colour, and I'm this colour, and when I do this, that seems to work, that bounces off you quite well, and it really did feel like adjusting to each other, and it felt like a dance, like going, this is how we move together, and this is how this bit of my body works when it's going with that bit of your body.
But it all felt quite like it was going to work, whereas sometimes you that process can be like, they're going to do it like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh shit, I can't do this then.
Oh, I thought I was going to be able to sort of do a little half of hair, but now I have to go over the top. But all that felt positive and sort of forward. It had a forward motion to it rather than anything constricting.
And I not necessarily able to say what they were, but it felt like we were discovering things a lot through that read-through that then informed everything we did after.
You're right, it's very instinctive and a bit nebulous. It's hard to pin down, but it did feel like it was a positive evolution.
Yeah.
We traveled through the ages with these characters, as mentioned before.
Well, because it's done, most of those are sort of there's a scene at Shakespeare's Globe, there's a scene in the 60s Soho, there's a scene in ancient Rome, and of course, because of the way a filming schedule works, you visit them intermittently over the sort of 5 months.
I always looked forward to doing one of those.
Yeah, exactly. They were always great fun to do. It's a brilliant sequence, brilliantly written, and of course, each one was a huge setup in its own right. And they didn't stint on this production. I mean, we went to Shakespeare's Globe. We took it over for 3 hours and filled it with straw and supporting artists, and that was one of the joys of it being a production that had a bit of heft behind it. That all these worlds were beautifully created,
and it did feel like the real dressing up box came out. Because I don't get to change. Like, I decided that Aziraphale has just sort of stayed looking pretty much the same. If he finds a nice waistcoat in the Victorian era, he just keeps it. Like, that's part of his thing. And so when we got to do the going through history stuff, I got to really dress up a bit, which was I love.
I think everyone, because it meant the makeup and wardrobe got to sort of show off, come up with some. So I think everyone got a little bit excited about those moments because ancient Rome today. What's that going to be like?
Yeah, we see each other coming out. What's his hair going to be like in this one?
And on their interesting relationship.
It's almost deeper than a friendship, though, because they've known each other for such a long time. They've known each other through all of history. They're almost like a marriage, aren't they? They're
definitely,
They are two halves of the same being by the end of the story.
They sort of know each other so well, and they have such a... They know what each other likes, and ultimately they never want to really hurt each other, but they bicker a lot, and they'll fight. But I think underneath there's a real respect for each other, it seems like.
Yes.
A real sensitivity to each other.
But with that, a lot of eye rolling and a lot of incredulous looks. And
enjoying what your role is to the other one, like there's a lot of that, I think, isn't there? I get to be the sort of like, oh, for goodness sake, that kind of thing. And there's a real enjoyment
I get to be,
in that.
come on, listen up.
As far as the humor, how much room did you guys have to play?
Well, Neil says that his favourite bit in the whole series is the one bit that we made up together. And I won't say what bit that is.
No,
but,
you'll have to guess.
He just told us that earlier on, didn't he?
It didn't happen a lot, but there were moments, I guess, that one moment which has made it into the final cut. But a lot, it's all there. Those characters are there. They're on the page of the novel, and they were definitely there on the page of the script. So,
I mean, they're just the basic premise of that relationship, and the context is is funny and enjoyable. So it's sort of baked into them. And Neil's writing is so great that it's like that. But also,
we're not going to come up with anything better on the hoof.
No, but I think we are both. I think one of the things that is similar about us as actors, I dare to say,
do tell,
is that we are quite, without changing the words, we're quite improvisational actors. In that we can play around with scenes and lines without necessarily changing the dialogue.
It's interesting, yeah.
Like I would be one of the most enjoyable things about acting with David is being surprised by the choices that he's made for things. Oh, that's a really enjoyable choice you made. I would never have thought of that. And that's like improvising in a way. That is like going off script, but you're not. You're sticking with the lines. You're just bringing a whole lot of creativity to what you're doing, and that's what's so enjoyable to act with him.
That's very true, actually. Yes, being surprised by something that Michael did would kind of go, oh, now I've got to play the scene that
now
way.
I go this way with it,
That always felt like an improvement rather than oh, he's not going to do it like that, is he? Yeah. Which is sometimes the experience on set.
Whether you're a longtime fan or revisiting the series with fresh eyes, this episode, I hope, offers a warm and witty and insightful look behind the scenes. On Sci-Fi Talk Plus, some exclusive episodes have a video version as well. All episodes will feature a podcast and also bonus video, great for listening and watching on your phone, tablet, or desktop. And besides that, it'll feature the best episodes selected by listener downloads. You can save 17% on a yearly plan to get those commercial-free episodes published Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, with special episodes as well. Click on the link in the show notes today. Thanks for listening on Rewind. I'm Tony Tellado.